Hey there, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, copyrighted edition for a video channel, and we're with Huck. And Huck's been a good girl today, so we give her these little treats. We push them in there and we make her work for them. So, come on. And that keeps her busy for a long time. She works on that and makes her mind work and makes her tongue work, and it's a good way to keep the dog busy, especially if it's a good healthy treat, and we only give them healthy treats. And she will go at it there for a long time. She's really happy with this. We've got like 3 or 4 of those kind of treats for her. So, here we go. This is a missing person edition, and this is part of the Amnesia. Yes, the Amnesia series. And I will guarantee to you this will be a fascinating one. And before I get too far into it, I've got to thank a lady named Terry. Terry sent Angie and I a couple of real nice mugs. Gee, I wonder why she sent those, huh? And being from New Mexico, she sent us some nice pinyon coffee. And we're big coffee drinkers. Not huge. I don't drink a ton of coffee, but I do drink it occasionally. And I like it. And if I'm on a real roll sometimes, and I need to stay up, I'll drink coffee. In fact, an interesting story is when I was a policeman, I only worked 2 weeks at graveyard my entire career. I hated those hours. But about the 3rd day of working graveyard with someone, I go, how do you stay awake? And he goes, I drink coffee. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, I drink coffee. I usually have a couple cups and I stop drinking about 3 or 4, so when I get home I can go to sleep 3 or 4 in the morning. He goes, you don't drink it? I go, I've never drank coffee. I was young then. And they go, let's pull in and we'll get a cup. So we pulled into a donut shop and we got a cup of coffee, and I thought, oh, this is magical. I wasn't groggy and I was awake, and so that was my first cup of coffee. And I like tea. I actually like tea more than coffee myself, but green tea's really good. I like that. But anyhow, I'm talking out, wasting time. So thank you, Terry, for those nice gifts. And we got other things from some other people. I'll talk about them in the future. But I got a ton of nice cards over the holidays from all of you. Very, very nice. Thank you. That's Huck just going at it with this thing. She's down here. She doesn't even know I exist right now. So, amnesia cases. Talked about an interesting one the last time, about somebody being on a river and disappearing. I want you to pay close attention to this case. Very close attention. Because you're going to start to see a pattern here. And if you read Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence, you're even going to see more of a connection. This involves a man named Dr. John Hartman. This is Dr. Hartman. 46 years old, went missing July 15th, 1981. So this follows the Missing 411 protocol, trust me. And Huck just knocked her toy into a box. Let's see if she can get it. July 15th, 81, a warm day. This was in Tennessee. Now, Dr. Hartman was a minister at the First United Methodist Church in Jackson, Tennessee. And he also had minister responsibilities at the Oak Haven First United Methodist Church in Memphis. He was married. He had 3 kids. His wife's name was Joanna, and they lived in Ripley, Tennessee. If you've never been to Tennessee in July, you're in for a treat. It's warm, it's muggy, It's hot. Well, he liked fish, and he had a 14-foot boat with a 20 horsepower engine on it. And the handle on the engine broke off a couple months earlier, and he had it fixed. And he told his wife he was going to take the boat out on the morning, just make sure everything worked, and then be back in a couple hours. Absolutely normal. His wife said he did this all the time, liked to fish, liked to go out, and especially liked to get his boat fixed. So he left about 7 a.m. How you doing, Hawk? It's good. And launched the boat on the Hatchie River. Now, where is that? Well, the Hatchie River is located just north of Covington, Tennessee. Here's Covington, right here, Covington. And it would be north on Highway 51, where the Highway 51 freeway crosses the Hatchie. There's a boat ramp right there, and there's a parking lot just north of there. So he drove his car out, launched the boat, parked his car, and he was supposed to be back at about 11 o'clock. Well, he wasn't home, and his wife said he was always very punctual. At about 3 o'clock, he still wasn't home. And his wife had kids coming home from school, so she called the Lauderdale County Sheriff and asked them to go check on her husband and gave him the location that he'd be at. Well, they send a deputy out, and they find his truck and trailer parked just north of the river where it should be. No boat on the trailer. So the deputy goes down to the boat launch, and he looks upriver. And there's a boat, and there's a 20 horsepower outboard kind of on a bank just offshore. And the deputy thinks the engine's running. And he gets on top of the overpass, and he looks down, and he sees that there's a life preserver in the boat, but there's nobody in the boat. And he gets out his binoculars, and he doesn't see anybody in the entire area other than this boat. So he requests a supervisor and additional resources because they've got a missing person at this point. Dr. John Hartman, 46 years old. Well, at this point, deputies have a few responsibilities. First of all, you got to get the boat back to shore. See if you can figure out what happened. Since he wasn't fishing, they didn't expect to find any fishing stuff in the boat, and there wasn't. The only thing in the boat, a life preserver. That made them all nervous. Well, it was late in the day at this point. The sun was going down. They got a couple additional deputies out there to search the banks, search downriver. They didn't find anything. So the supervisor approved a search and rescue call out for the next day, July 16th. And they called 6 additional counties for assistance. What they believed they were going to have to do was drag the river looking for a body. Well, Mrs. Hartman was notified. She told her kids that the dad was missing. They were pretty shook up about it, obviously. And the dragging of the river starts. Lauderdale sheriffs obtained assistance from the Dyer sheriffs, Obion, Haywood, and Shelby County Sheriff's Office. And they did this for 10 hours on July 16th. They did come into some issues. There were some large log jams in the river that they thought if the body was there, it would have gotten hung up in one of these big log jams. So they requested more assistance. The following day, July 17th, they had double the manpower out there from other counties, and they had a dynamite crew out there, and there were several log jams that they blew up. And they put nets in the river down lower so in case something rolled down, they'd get it, presumably a body. Well, with the log jams gone, they still found nothing. They would thought at this point that the water levels were like medium and that the body should have rolled up, but it didn't. Now, as I was researching this at this time, in this general area of Tennessee, I was blown away. This sheriff's office and 3 adjacent counties were working 4 drowning cases within a week. I was stunned. I mean, I've been around sheriff's offices that didn't work 4 in a year, but they had 4 cases in a very, very short period of time. It was awkward to read about it. Puck has to go outside. Okay, I'll let you go. Was that good? Was that good? Okay, here you go. Good girl. No bark. But yeah. I might as well never say it. It's like, go ahead and bark. Oh, by the way, the story's going to go on for a while. I want to tell you something. Many of you have left a lot of really nice comments, and I appreciate each of you. Even though I can see some of you eating an almond croissant in front of me, I'm not going to get angry. Keep eating. So, July 18th, there were some more log jams further downriver. They blew those up too. The chief deputy for the Lauderdale Sheriff's Office said on July 19th that this was the largest search and rescue in rural western Tennessee's history, and that they committed 3,300 man-hours and 800 searchers to this effort. Then the chief deputy said to the press, all indications are is that Dr. Hartman drowned. That's sobering. Nothing that relatives like to see or hear. Odd note. Sheriff's Office said just adjacent to the boat, there were 20 expended .22 rounds laying on the ground. And they didn't know if it was related to the disappearance, but they didn't find any blood on the boat or any blood anywhere on the embankment. And they were suspicious of it, but they didn't know what to make of it. And at about this time, the sheriff was prepping the family of Dr. Hartman. He was probably dead. They found his trailer and truck. It was all locked up, just like it should have been. And they couldn't find any evidence that he possibly left the area. It's quite a distance from the nearest city, and there was nobody that said that they picked him up or saw him leave the area. This incident got widespread publicity throughout Tennessee. Every day of the week, it was on the front page with new updates. He was a popular person in the community, very well trusted and loved. Now, if you were the family, wife said that he loved to go fishing. He was anxious to get the boat in the water. There was nothing indicative that something might be wrong. There were no suspicions that he took his life. He had no mental health issues. What else could you think other than he's in the river and he's dead, which is what the sheriffs thought. So the day after the sheriff's office says that they're pulling back on the search, and they presume he's in the water, the next day, July 20th, the very next day, 5 days after he goes missing on July 15th, in the early AM hours at the downtown Houston Sheraton Hotel, a man wakes up in the parking lot. He has no idea where he's at. And he goes to the front desk. He explains the situation and says, "Can I just use your bathroom to clean up?" They said, "Sure." So he goes in and he cleans up. And then he asks them for directions to the Houston Police Department. He did ask them where he was at, and they said, "You're in Houston, downtown Houston." And he says, "Okay, thanks for your help." And they draw directions. And he takes off on foot to the police department. July 20th at about noon, this man enters the Houston Police Department and asks for help. Front desk officer says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Well, I'm not sure who I am. I'm not sure where I'm at. I'm told I'm in Houston, but I don't know how I got here because I just woke up this morning here." Well, I can tell you right now, if I'm working the front desk at the police department, I'm going to think, okay, this guy might be a drug addict. He might be on I'm quite a bender. Or we got something really weird going on. And I've never heard of this as a policeman. Well, they bring down a detective, Sergeant Cindy Landry. And she brings this man back into a room. Starts talking to him with another detective. And they said, "Well, do you remember anything?" "Yeah, I remember the names of several churches in Tennessee." And he starts naming churches. Well, they also noticed that he had a unique belt buckle with some initials on it. When he entered, he was wearing clean clothes that were pressed, and he had a duffel bag. But he didn't have a wallet, didn't have any keys, nothing else to identify him. So Sergeant Landry makes a call to one of the churches that this person named and gives them the initials on the belt buckle and describes this man. And the person on the phone says, "The person died in a boat accident 5 days ago." She goes, "What?" And they give him the name. Well, the detectives call Lauderdale sheriffs and say what they have and describe the man they have with the initials. And they send faxes back and forth with a photo. And who do they have? They have Dr. John Hartman. You're going, what? Yeah. The Lauderdale sheriffs were stunned. They called Joanne, his wife. She was ecstatic. Couldn't believe it. And then the sheriff's office made a public statement right after this became public knowledge that they wanted to understand what happened. Well, Joan Hartman, the wife, gets a hold of a close family friend, a physician. And they fly to Houston on July 21st, meet with the police and meet with John. The family friend is a doctor named A.J. Butler, who interviews John, talks to him. John is absolutely exhausted and is running on very low energy and is physically doesn't have any injuries. And the doctor says, "I'm going to allow you one short news conference and that's it. You need to get bed rest and you need to come home and we need to get a physical done on you." And Joanne says, "Oh, that's good. I'll make sure it's a short conference." Well, there's the normal questions that you would think. What do you remember? What could you remember? And he says that he remembers being on the river, on the boat. He thinks he remembers falling into the water. He remembers his left hand getting caught on something in the water. And then he remembers surfacing and taking a breath of air. And that's the last thing he remembers for 5 days. Then he remembers waking up in the parking lot at the Sheraton in downtown Houston. In their parking lot. So where was he for 5 days? Yeah, good question. My question is, quite a while ago, probably a year ago, I was watching a show where a female physician wrote a book about dying. And she was on a trip, and I don't remember where this was, but her canoe or the raft she was on capsized. She went underwater. They didn't find her for like 20 minutes. They finally find her. And I think her husband was a physician as well. They revive her. She says she remembers being underwater. And I remember her saying that she saw a bright white light, and she thought maybe that was the sun, the surface. And then she thinks she's going to die. And she talks about this revelation of being in the water and being talked to by somebody somewhere saying, it's not your time. You're not going to die. And she didn't. Well, it's not beyond me that this person was a man of faith. Dr. Hartman spent his whole life in the church. Was this an angel that saved him? Now, people out there that don't believe in God, don't believe in religion, that's fine. I'm not pushing any beliefs on you. But if you want to be a true investigator, you better keep an open mind. Something saved Dr. Hartman. If you don't have a memory of saving yourself under those conditions, why not? What happened during those 5 days that someone somewhere doesn't want him to remember? Interestingly, he said that something pulled on his left hand, or he had his hand stuck on something. But when his wife saw him, she noticed that his wedding ring was gone. He had no memory about that. He had a memory of the wedding ring, but doesn't remember losing it. Well, they give that interview, a short one, and then they fly back to Tennessee, and John's admitted to a local hospital for a full physical. He didn't have a wallet in Houston, didn't have any ID. So that was on July 22nd that he was in the hospital. I did a lengthy search on him looking for follow-up, and there was some. So the last one was July 22nd. The next article about him was on December 22nd. And I think what happened was a newspaper wanted to do a short follow-up, so they got a hold of Joanne, and she said, yeah, he can make a short statement. And what he said was, quote, "There's 5 days in my life I'll never know about." And he said he's still receiving treatment at the hospital. I've stated this before. If you're somebody like me, who's always trying to stay on top of things, trying to know about things, trying to understand things, if I didn't have memory about some part of my life, it would bother me a lot. Now, John, being a man of faith, maybe he thought that something godly happened to him. And maybe he just didn't want to say it. Or, as I've thought before, what if something abduction-wise happened and these people were so embarrassed they never would say it? Well, then there was another article in January of 1982, and it said that Reverend Hartman voluntarily asked for disability leave from both of his churches, and he was still getting hospital treatment. Whatever happened during that 5 days changed this person's life forever, as it would mine. The sheriff made a statement a couple months after July and said that the case was closed and they weren't going to pursue it any further. They couldn't figure out they couldn't see a crime that had occurred, so it was over. Now let's go down the list of items that trouble me about this. And I don't mean I'm in any way questioning Dr. Hartman about this, but the whole thing troubles me. Let's think about the last case. River, South Dakota, Nebraska area. Man supposedly disappears hunting. He's found clear across the nation in Los Angeles days later, months later. Now, in this incident, Dr. John disappears from an area just north of Covington, Tennessee, on a river. He's found in Houston, Texas, right adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico, and tons of water. 609 miles away by car, and probably a good 560 miles away by air. Quite a distance to travel in 5 days, where he has no memory. Where was he for 5 days? Where did he get the new clothes? I kind of thought this through, and I thought maybe when he went to the Sheraton and asked to clean up, maybe they had some clothes there and they pressed them and gave them to him. I don't know. I don't think it was important to the police in Houston to figure out, and they never did. At least they never made it public. But this is another case related to water and possible drowning, which makes me take a second look at all of the cases of drowning that I have researched and just kind of put on the side and said, well, nobody will really care about these because they drowned. But what if I come across 100 of these cases? I don't even care if it's just two credible cases like this. I'm stunned. He was a church leader. Many of you have asked me over the years, Dave, do you have many church leaders? Yeah, I do. Weirdly, I've written about several church leaders. And I don't mean just like local leaders like Dr. John. I'm talking about leaders of the whole state congregation sometimes. One of the last things his physician said was after he spent several days around him, interviewing him, talking to him, in a lifetime friendship, he said that there's no way this was fabricated or a hoax. Why is that important? His physician didn't have to say that. He could have just let it pass, but he said it. To me, that meant a lot. I'm worried about this case on one level. This is now 2 cases in a row we have where people disappeared on a river and were found hundreds of miles away. Now, maybe you look at the last case and you say, okay, well, man, this farmer who was fixing his duck decoy, oh yeah, he just wanted to go to California. Oh, really? And what do you say about Dr. Hartman? Oh, he just wanted to go to Texas. Even though he has no contacts in Texas. There's no evidence he met anybody in Texas. He has no wallet. He has no keys. He had no visible way to get from an overpass on the Hatchie River to Houston. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, if I was the deputy on this case, I'd want to interview him. I'd want to interview him because I want to understand what he went through in case I ever face this again. Especially knowing what I know now. And what I know about abductions, I know that we are onto something huge, because I know people in the UFO community haven't even figured this out. I'm sure there's a whole bunch right now that are getting ready to do videos about this case and about the case I gave you last 2 days ago. So as we march ahead, I want you to keep an open mind. I want you to keep your ears open. And I know that Dr. Hartman's family went through a lot of grief for 5 days, and that's horrific. But the ecstasy in having their dad back probably made up for a lot of that. So in the meantime, we're in 2024. This is the kindness revolution. The kindness revolution. It costs nothing to be kind. Nothing. And if we were all kinder souls, the world would be a better place. So, if you see someone in need, help them. Give them a hand with something heavy. Doesn't hurt. And I would be grateful to each of you if you shared this on your social media. Please make sure you're subscribed. Tell me if you're not getting notifications for this video. And if you're not getting notifications, I want to hear it, put it on the comment of it. And on the links below this, you'll find other links, on comments below this, you'll find other links to the series of Bigfoot classes I gave, missing runners, different classifications and subgroups. Please go back and watch them all. It helps me greatly if you're always watching one of our videos. Even if you're doing homework and you have it on in the background, you're just listening, it helps. Thank you very much. Huck says thank you very much. Did you finish the croissant? Darn. Paulides out.